Hi, my name is Dr. Lucy Meier, and I'm from Third Coast Foot and Ankle. And I am going to answer some very popular questions about shoes and plantar fasciitis. So, plantar fasciitis is one of the most common causes of heel pain, and it is an injury to a ligament on the bottom of our foot. And so, what we put on our foot is very important during this process of recovery. Now, I'm going to preference this conversation that walking barefoot is one of the worst things that you can do when you have plantar fasciitis. Now, many of you that are struggling with plantar fasciitis usually respond with that, like, I can't walk barefoot, it hurts too much. But if we are still in the recovery phase, or if you're in the early stages of maybe a little bit of heel pain, it is really important for you to get into the habit of wearing either a shoe or a supportive sandal or even a supportive slipper that will appropriately address that structural integrity of that ligament. So let's start with something simple with the sandal. So in the summertime, it is very annoying to wear shoes for many of us. And in the house, sometimes people just are not people who wear shoes in the house. And therefore, it's very hard to kind of break that habit of walking barefoot. So sandals are really good intermediary, right? Like we can slip them on and still be supportive, but we don't feel like we're being restricted, and it still helps our wardrobe a little bit. Now, I have two favorites when it comes to plantar fasciitis. There are more out there, but we'll kind of talk about the features. Now, the first one I'm going to show you is called a Vionic. Now, Vionic has been out for many years. They actually have all sorts of different shoes, but they really became famous because of their sandals and their slippers too, actually. And you'll see that it actually has a really nice arch bed. Now that plantar fascia, remember, is a ligament. It runs all the way across the bottom of your foot. And so to appropriately support it, it is important to have that additional support inside the shoe. The other thing that's great about these sandals is that they're not like bendy. They're pretty stable. And so you're not going to be collapsing or falling out of them. You know how some sandals are, you almost slide off the side. This is actually going to kind of keep your foot in place. Now, they have tons of different styles. So if you don't like the flip-flop, you want something more like a slide, something with more straps, that's all available. What I'm really concerned about is this footbed, which is highly appropriate for people who have plantar fasciitis. Now, others who maybe aren't used to having that much arch support might find this uncomfortable the first time they wear it. And another good option is something called UFOs. Now, UFOs is actually a shoe that was made for athletes, but people with plantar fasciitis have been gravitating towards it. So they're much more readily available than they were even 2 years ago. So you can now find that at all your popular shoe stores, including Amazon. Now, the nice thing about UFOs is that they do have that nice arch support in them, so that's providing that support that we're so concerned about, but they have a little bit more of a squishy appeal to them. And so it kind of feels like, some people say this feels like I'm walking on clouds. So it gives you that soft sensation that you're craving without sacrificing that support that is really, really necessary. Now, when it comes specifically to shoes, there's a couple features to a shoe that can be incredibly important. And one that is oftentimes overlooked is what we call the heel counter. So this is what is behind the heel. I also want to back up for a second and make the point that when we have plantar fasciitis, it's not because you're overpronating or underpronating. It's an injury to your heel, and there's lots of different reasons why people get it, and the reason is very specific to you. It could have been an activity injury, it could have been a shoe gear injury, it could be because you're overpronating, but that's not always the case. There's not one specific thing that causes plantar fasciitis. And so when we start looking at athletic shoes, it can get a little confusing because you may be trying to correct different things in your biomechanics. And so to simplify it, I want to focus on those things that we should all be looking at for in our shoes. Whether you're an overpronator or an underpronator, all of these things are going to be important when you are recovering. So first thing is that heel counter. So the heel counter is essentially how stiff the back of the shoe is. If you have a shoe that you can basically squeeze and it falls apart, it's not really giving you a lot of control. You might as well be in a sandal. If that's the case, this is going to provide you more stability in those tissues that are trying to heal. Second part of it is you don't want a shoe that's really bendy. You want to make sure that there's some stiffness that is providing kind of a backdrop to that fascia, so it's not getting that extra strain of being pulled and twisted with every single step. And so you can see this shoe, if I try to squish it, it barely even bends. You know, I can get it to flex at the toes quite appropriately, but I am not going to use all my muscles in my body. I cannot get this to bend underneath the arch, which is really critical. Another way to kind of test that is to try to twist it like a dish rag. It shouldn't wring out like a dish rag. It should feel kind of like a stiff board to some degree, with some wiggle room, some squishiness to the material, but it's still extremely stable. Stability is key. Now, there are different degrees of this. So, you know, this is an ASICS shoe, which is a great reputable brand. Now, here's an On shoe. Now, I want to show something that I love this shoe. I use these shoes a lot. You'll probably see me wearing these in clinic. Now, you'll see this kind of bends a little bit more than the shoe I just told you. It still has a really good heel counter. When I twist it, it's got a little bit more give. And so this is still a good shoe, but if you're still noticing pain, you know, you might want to up the ante and go into something more stiff like the ASIC that I just showed you. But there's also a little bit of a magic trick I have. I also use a custom orthotic all the time. And when we put the custom orthotics in these good shoes, but maybe not superb for our condition, it actually allows for a lot more stability. And you can see now that I try to bend it, it's only bending at the toes. If I try to twist it, there's a little bit more integrity in there. And because I'm adding that extra support into the shoe, and it's a stiff orthotic, which I know some people think that could be counterintuitive, but it's actually extremely effective. It is kind of adding that material to the shoe that is needed. So there are situations where we can use a mediocre shoe and make it a really, really good shoe by adding these custom orthotics to them. So in short, when we're looking for the appropriate shoes for plantar fasciitis, those are the things I want to focus on. Now, we can get way more complicated depending on your injury. If you're a runner, there's a whole plethora of stuff that we have to go through about your form and then what shoe is going to complement your form and your injury at the same time. If you are just a walker with your spouse, you know, and you have flat feet or you have really high arches, that will also change some of our recommendations. But if you're looking through your closet and trying to figure out what am I supposed to wear with this heel pain, these are the concepts that I want you to stick with. Now, if you have more questions, please feel free to call our office. Once again, I'm Dr. Lucy Meier from Third Coast Foot and Ankle. And most importantly, if you found this video helpful, please like it. That helps us so much. Have a great day.